Bonjour, comment ça va? Today I'm going to teach you how to use the pronoun en in French. And so the pronoun en is very often taught right along with the pronoun e. And if you haven't learned about the pronoun e, that's the one that's just spelled with a y. If you haven't learned about the pronoun e yet, then you can click on the link that I'm putting up here on the screen and you can have a look at that lesson when you get finished with this one. So the pronoun en shouldn't be confused with the preposition en. Have you ever heard anyone say, for example, j'habite en France or je vais en Australie? That is not the same kind of en. That's not the preposition. That's not the pronoun en. That's the preposition en, which means in. The pronoun en does not mean in at all. So if you click down on the link that I've put there in the video description, you can go over to my blog and you can read along as you listen to me explain all of this to you. All the essential stuff is written there on the blog. So the French pronoun en usually replaces a quantity. And so a lot of times we can translate the pronoun en in English by the words some or any or one of them. Okay, I'm going to give you some examples so it will make more sense here in just a minute. But the point is, like, if we say something like, how many sisters do you have? Well, I have 3. In English, we don't have to say I have 3 of them. But in French, that's what the little pronoun en stands for. You can't just say I have 3. You have to say I have 3 of them. All right, so I'm going to teach you exactly how to use this. First of all, the pronoun en. You know, pronouns always replace something. So if we're talking about pronouns, it's always going to be in the context of a conversation or something that you're reading. Something will have been mentioned before, and so that you don't keep on repeating yourself over and over and over again, you want to use pronouns. They're really important and honestly used a whole lot in French and in English as well, for that matter. So en refers to a noun when we're talking about quantity, okay, using en to replace a quantity. En refers to a noun that is introduced by any form of de. So that can either be de la, du, des, de l'apostrophe, any of those plus a noun. All right? So we'll look at some examples of using the pronoun en like that. But first, let me tell you the other ways that you use the pronoun en. You can also use it whenever you have un or une or any other number that is followed by a noun. All right, so for example, j'ai une sœur. I have one of them. J'en ai une. You also use the pronoun en to replace a quantity when you have an expression of quantity, for example, like a glass of, un verre de, or a kilogram of, un kilo de, or a bottle of, une bouteille de. When you have any of those, and of course there are many other expressions of quantity, but when you have any of those followed by a noun, right, then you can use the pronoun en. And then we're also going to use it with adverbs of quantity, and that's going to be like a lot of, a little of, those kind of things. Beaucoup de, peu de, enough of, assez de. All right. So let's start going through some examples, and I hope that you've clicked over to my blog because you'll really be able to follow along better if you have a look at that and listen along while I'm teaching this to you. So if you have a sentence like nous voudrions deux baguettes. Nous voudrions deux baguettes. The deux, of course, is a number and it's followed by a noun, baguette. So we can replace that word baguette with the pronoun en. Now you don't get rid of the number. You have to keep the number there because what you want to say is we would like 2 baguettes. We would like 2 of them. So remember, the word 2 has to stay in there or whatever number it is you're dealing with. Now, when we're in the present tense, I want you to note that the pronoun en, it works like all other pronouns if you've studied other pronouns. When you're placing it in the sentence, in the present tense, you have to put the pronoun right before the verb. So, nous voudrions deux baguettes becomes nous en voudrions deux. See, the en comes right before voudrions. All right. Next example. Je ne mange pas de frites. Je ne mange pas de frites. It's not true for me. I love French fries. It's one of my favorite things. Je ne mange pas de frites. Okay, but look, we have je ne mange pas de followed by a thing. So guess what? We can replace de frites with un. So now we can say je n'en mange pas. Now that non sounds like one word. It's because the ne and the on, you have to put them together. So ne becomes an apostrophe and on is just tacked onto it. So je n'en mange pas. I'm not eating any of them. And so note the placement when we have negation. This is still a present tense sentence, but when you have negation, your negation can't break up the pronoun from the verb that it comes right before. You have to put the ne and the pas all the way around the pronoun and the verb that it's directly attached to. The reason I'm saying it like this is because in a little while we're going to look at using these with pronouns, okay? And so we're always thinking about the verb that the pronoun is directly linked to in meaning, all right? Because what do I eat after all? Them. Or what do I not eat? Any of them, you see? Okay, the next example, we're going to change things up a little bit, and I'm going to give you an example using two verbs in a sentence. So the second verb is going to be in the infinitive form. Listen to this. Tu vas servir du champagne. Tu vas servir du champagne. So here we have a form of de, du, followed by a thing, champagne, woo. So if you're going to, what are you going to do to that champagne? You're going to serve it. So again, that's the verb that this pronoun is directly linked to. So when we have two verbs in a sentence, the second one is an infinitive, you want to put the pronoun in front of the infinitive. So it becomes tu vas en servir. Tu vas en servir. You see? All right, now this might not seem so hard now that we're going through it, and I hope that it doesn't. A lot of times with these, if you can just get it explained to you and look at the examples, you can understand. Now, I won't tell you it's going to be easy to start using them, but what you have to do when you do have the opportunity to speak French, really first maybe start listening for the pronouns, and maybe you'll start hearing them more. In this case, the pronoun en. Listen to how they're used, or maybe just if you're watching a movie or listening to songs. I mean, these pronouns are everywhere. And once you start listening to them and you hear them in context, then maybe you'll feel more comfortable to start using them in your speech. And of course, the more you start using something, the more comfortable you'll be with it. And, you know, if you mess up, I mean, it's not that big of a deal. Hopefully someone will correct you, but, you know, you're still practicing. So remember that. Even when we mess up, we're still practicing. All right, now I want to give you an example just in the imperfect. If you haven't learned the imperfect yet, don't worry about it. But I just want to let you know that no matter what tense you're using, as long as it's not the passé composé, you're going to put the pronoun still up in front of the verb. So here's the sentence. Vous achetiez beaucoup de citrons? And that means, were you buying a lot of lemons? Vous achetiez beaucoup de citrons? So, de citron, de plus a thing. I'm going to replace that with un. Vous en achetiez beaucoup. Vous en. You see how the S has to be pronounced when it's followed by a vowel. Vous en achetiez beaucoup. Were you buying a lot of them? Alors. So here's your next example. Passé composé. Here we go. Listen closely to this one because it's a little bit different since in the passé composé, we have a helping verb, right? And then we have a past participle. In the passé composé, you're going to see here in just a minute, no matter what pronoun you're dealing with, your pronoun in the passé composé has to come before the helping verb. And it can't be separated by from that helping verb for any reason. And then the past participle comes after that. So listen to this example. J'ai bu 8 verres d'eau. J'ai bu 8 verres d'eau. I drank 8 glasses of water. So here we have a quantity, 8, and then we have a thing, verre d'eau. So when you have a number in the sentence, remember, you have to leave it in there. And when you have the like an expression of quantity, you also have to leave that in there. So basically what we want to say is, I drank 8 glasses of it. So, j'ai bu 8 verres d'eau, the D apostrophe E-A-U, that's what gets replaced. All right, so we have to keep the 8 verres. J'en ai bu 8 verres. J'en ai bu. So the on comes, like I said, before the helping verb. J'en ai. And the je and the je ends in e. The on begins with it, so the je has to drop the e, get an apostrophe in there to connect them together, and it becomes j'en. J'en ai bu 8 verres. Bien. One more example, and then we're going to talk about another way to use the pronoun en. So this is going to be passé composé with negation. So the same thing is going to be true. Your pronoun is still going to come right before the helping verb. Since we can't separate the pronoun and the helping verb by anything, when we want to use negation of any kind, I'm just using regular simple negation here, ne pas. You want to put your ne and your pas around the pronoun and the helping verb. So here's the example. Il n'a pas voulu de poulet. Il n'a pas voulu de poulet. De poulet, that's what gets replaced with un, because he didn't want any of that chicken. He didn't want any of that. Do you want some chicken? No, I don't want any chicken. Why don't you want any chicken? It's a little repetitive. Oh my God, someone's honking outside, you know. So here we go. Il n'a pas voulu de poulet. Il n'en a pas voulu. Il n'en a pas voulu. All the words run together. But look over at the blog and you'll see how it's spelled. Il n'en a pas voulu. He didn't want any of it. Okay. If you have questions, let me know. You can drop me an email or you can leave a comment. I do read those. Now we're going to talk about one more way to use the French pronoun en. And this, before we were talking about en replacing a quantity. Now we're going to talk about en replacing a thing. So listen closely to this. En is going to replace a thing that's been introduced by a verb and that is preceded by de la, du, des, or the apostrophe. So you're still going to be looking for some form of de followed by a thing in the sentence. And on my blog, I've put some of the most common French verbs that are followed by de, so that you'll have at least a small list there. And I tried not to get way out of hand with it. You know, there's so many verbs. When you look up some of these verb lists on the internet, I mean, I was looking around just for some inspiration, you know. And I found these lists with like 50 verbs, and I thought, my God, when I was just learning basic French and how to use en, the last thing I needed was a list of 50 verbs followed by de. I only need a few that I might actually use someday, and then as I get better, I'll learn the others. So that's why I haven't put a whole ton of them on here. But here are a few. How about avoir peur de? That means to be afraid of. We have the de in there. So, avoir peur de. If I say, j'ai peur des serpents, I'm afraid of snakes. I have a form of de, followed by a thing, snakes. I can say, j'en ai peur. I'm afraid of them. The of them we don't need in English, but remember, absolutely necessary in French. How about avoir besoin de? That means to need. Probably use that, right? Avoir besoin de. So, tu as besoin d'argent. Do you need some money? De, or D apostrophe. Argent, replace it with en. Tu en as besoin? Do you have need of it? See, in English we say, do you need some? So maybe you can replace it with the word some as well. Now here's another avoir expression. Avoir envie de. And that means to desire or to want something. Avoir envie de. So, for example, il a envie de manger une pizza. Now here, the de is followed by a verb. You can do that. You can do that. It's no problem. Il a envie de manger une pizza. So we're going to replace de manger une pizza with en. Il en a envie. Simple as pie. Okay? So, how about another? Here's the last avoir expression. Avoir l'intention de. That might be new. Avoir l'intention de. To have the intention to do something. Or the intention of doing something. Nous avons l'intention de partir en vacances. We intend to leave on vacation. To go on vacation. Nous en avons l'intention. because we're replacing de partir en vacances with en. Nous en avons l'intention. All right, here is a reflexive verb for you. If you haven't learned these yet, just ignore me for a second and I'll move on to the next one. But s'excuser de faire quelque chose. And that means to excuse oneself for doing something. S'excuser de. All right? You see, all of these end with de. That's why I'm pointing these out to you. Vous vous excusez d'arriver en retard. Vous vous excusez d'arriver en retard. So that's right, we're going to replace d'arriver en retard with the pronoun en. Now, when you have more than one pronoun in a sentence, and this is why I threw in a reflexive verb, because you have a reflexive pronoun. Oh my God, I have two pronouns, what am I supposed to do? Well, there is an order to the pronouns, a very specific order that you have to follow, and that's for another lesson. But what you can remember when you're dealing with the pronoun en, just to make it simple, en always will come after every other pronoun. So what you do is you say, instead of vous vous excusez d'arriver en retard, vous vous en excusez. Vous, that's a reflexive pronoun. En excusez. Of course, when you say it, vous vous en excusez, sounds like it's one great big word. All right. Rêver de, to dream of. Rêver de. So, elle rêve de faire le tour du monde. Elle rêve de faire le tour du monde. So we can replace de faire le tour du monde with the pronoun en. Put it up in front of the verb. Elles en rêvent. You see? Okay, just 3 more examples. Here's another reflexive verb for you in case you want to practice that. Se souvenir de. Se souvenir de means to remember. So, je me souviens de ce restaurant. I remember this restaurant. See how we don't say of all the time in English. It's just because the French verbs are different. I mean, it's different language. So you really have to learn the verbs that are followed by de. It's very important. So, je me souviens de ce restaurant. I'm replacing de ce restaurant with the pronoun en. Je m'en souviens. What is that, m'en? Well, it's M'-E-N. Je m'en souviens, because it's a reflexive verb. So you have 2 pronouns in the sentence now. Profiter de. Have you ever heard of that one? Profiter, it sounds like to make a profit, but that's not what it means. It means to take advantage of something. And it doesn't have to be in a bad way. Like, you know, if you leave on vacation or something, someone might tell you, profite bien de tes vacances. Ah, profite de tes vacances. Profites-en. That one's not on the blog. But here is the one that's on the blog. Tu profites de tes vacances. So, the way you do that is tu en profites. The last one, another reflexive verb. Se servir de. Se servir de, if you don't know this one, it doesn't mean to serve. When it becomes reflexive, it means to use. So you might say, why don't we just use the verb utiliser? Well, you can, but it doesn't mean that everyone else will. So you need to understand. And also, you know, it's good to know how to say things in more than one way. So, se servir de means to use. Elle se sert de ma voiture. She uses my car. Elle se sert de ma voiture. We can replace de ma voiture with en. Elle s'en sert. S'-E-N. Elle s'en sert. So, I realize it's going to take you, you're probably going to have to stop and go back and think about that, you know, and try to really remember when to use en. But I tell you what, on the blog I've put a PDF version that you can download, and it's free. You can just click on it, and that way you can have the rules in front of you. If you want them, that could be handy. And I do want to go through, if you're still with me here, I want to go through a few little exercises with you. So for this particular point of the lesson, I encourage you not to look at the blog, okay, because the answers are there. It's all written. and that way you can go back and look at it afterwards. But listen, what if I said, tu veux acheter des clémentines? Those are clementines. Tu veux acheter des clémentines? How would you restate that with a pronoun? You've got two verbs in the sentence. The second one is an infinitive. Don't forget about that. The pronoun has to come before the infinitive. Tu veux acheter des clémentines? Tu veux en acheter? Tu veux en acheter? Now, how would you answer that if you did want to buy some? Oui, je veux en acheter. That's right. And if you didn't want to buy any, where does the ne pas have to go? Non, je ne veux pas en acheter. So that's because you have an infinitive in the sentence. All right, here's one just regular present tense. Tu as un stylo? Remember that un is a quantity, right? So how would you restate that? Tu as un stylo? Tu en as un? Tu en as un? How would you answer it affirmatively? Yes, I have one of those. Oui, j'en ai un. Or if you didn't have one, no, I don't have one of those. Non, je n'en ai pas. Now the thing with un and une, it's not like the other numbers. Because remember that un and une, they're also articles that mean a or an. So un and une, you do have the option. You can either leave it in, oui, j'en ai un, or you can leave it out, non, je n'en ai pas. See, I didn't repeat un. I don't have to. Okay, here's one. Il y a du lait dans le frigo. Il y a du lait dans le frigo. Du lait. That's what you're replacing with en. How would you do it? Remember, I told you if you have two pronouns in the same sentence, then en is always going to be the second one. Il y en a. That's right. Il y en a. And if you wanted to say yes, there is some. Oui. Il y en a. Or non. How would you do that? Il n'y en a pas. Il n'y en a pas. You can't separate the pronouns from the verb that they're directly linked to, even if there's more than one. Put the ne and the pas all the way around the pronoun or pronouns and the verb. And this is our very last one, and then we'll be done, and you can pat yourself on the back for getting through this. Est-ce que, it's the passé composé, so it's a challenge. Est-ce que vous avez vu des chats dans le jardin? Est-ce que vous avez vu des chats dans le jardin? You understand? Des chats? Meow. That's what you're going to replace with en. So let's restate the question first using the pronoun en. How would you do that? Est-ce que vous avez vu des chats dans le jardin? Est-ce que vous en avez vu? Right. So the en has to come up in front of the helping verb. Est-ce que vous en avez vu dans le jardin? Okay. Or if you want to say oui, yes, I saw some of them in the yard. Oui, j'en ai vu dans le jardin. Vu, past participle of the verb voir, to see, like déjà vu. Okay, and if you wanted to say, no, I didn't see any of them in the yard, that would be, how would you do it? That would be non, je n'en ai pas vu dans le jardin. Voilà. I, for one, am very pleased that you are learning French. And if you're making it this far and you're starting to deal with pronouns, and that means you're starting to make some real progress, Don't stop. Don't say, oh, well, you know, pronouns, I can really get around that. I don't have to use them. Yeah, but you'll be repeating yourself. You sound like a broken record all the time. You don't want to do that. So here you go. That's the end of today's lesson. I don't like to be pushy, but I always like to mention that if you do want to take some French lessons with me, I give French lessons on Skype, so you can contact me through the website. Voilà, so that's it. And by the way, I'm making a lot of progress. I've been doing a lot of cleaning up on the blog, so have a look around there. And I just put up, I'm starting to put up a free beginner French course, and there's going to be 8 parts to it by the time I'm done. Right now, we're up to part 2. So you can have a look at that when you go on the blog. It's in the category list. You'll find it real easily. Allez, merci beaucoup à tout le monde et à très bientôt. Au revoir.